Hey everybody, so I am just making this video because there's a couple things that have come up recently in everyday discussions and whatever, different things that I've experienced that are kind of odd to me and a little bothersome on some levels. Um, but I guess first I kind of want to talk about labels and definition of labels. I'm not going to go through and define all the labels. I'm not going to pretend to know all the labels or definitions of gender, sex, sexuality, whatever. Um, but basically, what I want to say is that yes, there are a lot of definitions that are extremely similar to each other, um, and on some level, they could be considered the same. Um, but there's a reason that there's multiple different labels, and there's a reason that those labels exist and that people identify with them, and they're not the same. Um, you you can say that they're the same. You can try to come up with an argument that they're the same, but there's a reason that somebody identifies with one and not the other, um, and that's up to them. Um, I firmly believe that your label is your own label and that you put that on yourself and it's up to you to define that. So it's not fair for other people to say, well, oh, these definitions are the same, so there's really no reason for people to label themselves this way or that way. Um, they are labeling themselves for a reason with the label that they prefer because it makes them more comfortable or whatever. And it's not your right to tell them which way is better or which way they should define themselves or what they are defined as. It's their label and it's not your place. Um, I've had people saying that, oh, this person's not a lesbian anymore because they're dating a trans man. Um, that's not how that works. You don't get to define that. You don't get to decide that. That if somebody wants to define themselves as a lesbian, but they're dating a trans guy, that's 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 fine. Like why do you care? Why are you trying to define them as something that they don't identify as? It's their identity and that's the end of it. So I think we all need to, especially within the community, realize that these definitions aren't 100% set in stone and that these identities aren't set in stone and that it's not our place to tell other people how to identify. And it's not our place to decide that, oh, this person isn't a lesbian or isn't bisexual or isn't this, that, or the other thing anymore. Um, it's just not your place. So just accept people's labels the way they are. And if somebody doesn't want to label themselves, then they shouldn't have to. Um, the other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was sex and gender, and how, I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I know everything on all these subjects, and then my word is set in stone because it sure as hell isn't. Um, I'm not an expert. This is all my experience, and this is, in some ways, it's an opinion, but at the same time, it's, I don't know. Anyway, um, sex is obviously it's well not obviously to everybody, but sex is considered between your legs or your parts, and gender is considered in your head. I don't really like that term because that makes it sound like it's a disorder or a mental disability somehow for some reason, and that you're making it up, which isn't at all accurate. So gender is an internal sense of self, I guess would be a better way to put it. Um, Gender itself is a spectrum. I actually like to think of it as a big plane and just infinite. And there's so many different labels, so many different identities, and so many. You can't put it in a box. It's not. There's not male, female. There's not a binary gender. It it's just it just is. It really is that you can't label it as anything specific. And sex is also a spectrum, though. There, yes, we do generally use male, female, and then intersex. Intersex being people with ambiguous parts, which, I mean, that's fine, but we need to realize that sex itself, the parts itself, are ambiguous and are a spectrum, and there's a bunch of different combinations and different ways of it, your biology and your anatomy taking shape. And it's not, we can't just label people as male, female, and in the middle. My other problem with labeling male, female, and then intersex is that by doing that, you're kind of saying, or you end up reinforcing the male female system and having this other group that is different, so to say, which they're not different, and it's not abnormal. Like it's a normal thing to have ambiguous genitalia. It happens in nature all the time. It's it exists, guys. It's not a made up thing. It's not unnatural. It's not abnormal. It is what it is, and that's the end of it. I I feel like I say that a lot. But I just I feel like we need to stop trying to categorize everything and make everything into the put everything in these little tiny boxes, and then when somebody doesn't entirely fit in that box, call them out on it, because it's not yours to it's not something for you to call people out on. That's not your place. If they want to, like, it, whatever. Anyway, um um so I guess, yeah, it's just all these boxes and all these things just seem pointless. And yeah, they help us with explaining ourselves and with helping people understand us. Um, but we also need to recognize and respect other people for who they are and who they feel they are. And on that note, I guess my my identity and my labels are a little, they constantly shift. I am, yes, I'm transgender. Yes, I am transitioning to male, so female to male, whatever. But I guess as of right now, I identify as a genderqueer male. I don't fully identify as male, but I also wouldn't fully identify as just genderqueer. So, as I said, I would identify as a genderqueer male. And so that's me. But yeah, I guess moral of my story is, if somebody defines themselves as something, and they don't 100% fit your opinion or your what you think is the definition of that, that doesn't mean you get to call them out on it, and it doesn't mean that you get to define them for what you think they are, because it's their identity and it's their personal. It's like trying to take somebody's name away from them, and it's not fair. And we by doing all this and by defining all these labels, when people step outside of those labels, we end up throwing them into an identity crisis, and that's not fair. People shouldn't have to go through an identity crisis just because they love somebody different than what they thought they loved. It it's just, love is love, attraction is attraction, and there's no reason for us to sit here and call people out on things that aren't any of our business. So I guess that's what I have to say for now. So yeah, have a nice day.